Hi, geometry students. The first thing we have to do is establish a common language of symbols to use when we want to talk to each other about points, lines, and planes. So today's video, I'll be defining and showing you how to name points, lines, and planes. So all the points in space need to be named, and we use capital letters to do so. So this is a diagram of points A, B, and M in space. And what is a point in geometry? In geometry, we use the word point to refer to an exact location, but a point does not have any width or length or depth. And we use a capital letter to represent each point. What is a line? A line is one-dimensional. It has length, but even though we draw it, a line does not have any width or height in geometry. A line is perfectly straight and it extends infinitely in each direction. That's what these arrowheads imply. And if you were to draw 2 points on a piece of paper, you could use a line to connect those points. And that's why we say that a line is defined by 2 points, meaning through any 2 points, you can only draw one line. So that's why if I know just 2 of the points on here, remember, there are infinite points on any line, but I only need 2 of them to know exactly which line I'm talking about. So one of the ways to name a line is to use any 2 points on the line with a double-headed arrow above it. Order doesn't matter. You could name this AB or BA. Now there's another way you could name a line. Another way you could name a line without using the points is to just put a label on it. A lowercase cursive label. And notice this label is a lowercase, and when I name the line using a lowercase, I do not use the double-headed arrow above it. So here's a summary slide. So to name a line, you can either use 2 capital letters with a double arrow above it, because they're capital letters because they represent points, or you can use a single lowercase letter and you do not put the arrow above it. So pause the video and on your own paper, name this line in 3 different ways, and then press play for the answer. So to name this line, you could use any 2 points on this line with the double-headed arrow above it. So any of these will be fine because the order doesn't matter. Any 2 points will do. These are all correct answers. Another way you could do it is add a lowercase label. In this case, I chose M, but you could choose any lowercase letter you want to name it. Now, points that are on the same line are called collinear points. So in this case, PQR are collinear points. And points that are not on the same line are called non-collinear points. And so in this case, A, B, C are non-collinear points. So pause the video and name 3 collinear points and then name 3 non-collinear points. So in this diagram, it's a 3-dimensional diagram, and so it takes some getting used to. The yellow plane, and then there's this line, TQ, which is puncturing the plane and then shooting out the bottom. That's what the dotted lines mean. So it's like the lines coming in and then shooting out the bottom. And so you could have said NQT were collinear, or you could have just said RQS. Notice when you're talking about 3 different points, you have to use commas between the points. What about non-collinear points? There are lots of correct answers you could have said. One of the correct answers is points V, R, and S. It would not be correct if you said P, because P is not a point. I'm going to talk about planes in a moment. All right, name line M, this line with the label lowercase m. Name this line in another way. You can use any 2 points on that line. TQ is one of the correct answers. How about line RS? How else could you name that? You could name it SR, QS. Any 2 letters on that line will do. You could also use the label line L. What is a plane? A plane is represented by a flat surface that extends infinitely in all directions and has no thickness. And it's hard to imagine. You have to use your imagination because we draw a plane in a way. Here, this is a picture of a plane, but be careful. The picture looks like it ends here, but it doesn't. If you're told that that's a plane, then it is infinitely going in all these directions. And we'll talk more about that throughout the course. So there are two basic ways to name a plane. You can slap a label on it, a capital cursive, or you can use any three points represented by capital letters as long as they are not on the same line. So we could name this plane ABC. Now you might ask why. Why do we use 3 points that are non-collinear in order to name a plane? And in order to answer that question, to really understand it, I want you to pause the video and think about this question and then press play to continue. How many planes could go through 3 points that are collinear? So in other words, if there were 3 points on the same line, how many planes? Here's one, here's one, here's one. Let's look at a picture. If you have these 3 collinear points, here's a plane that goes through them, here's a plane that goes through them. If you think about 3 collinear points being on the spine of a book, all the pages could represent a different plane that goes through those 3 points. If you think of 3 collinear points all sitting on this black line, the blue plane goes through those 3 collinear points, the green plane goes through those 3 collinear points, the red plane, and so many more. And so if those 3 points are collinear, they would never define a plane because there are infinite planes that could go through them. On the other hand, what if that third point was not on the same line? So we know that through any 2 points we could draw a line, but what if the third point is out here? Then I would put the edge of the plane through those first 2 points and angle out to catch that third point. And there'd be one and only one plane that could go through those 3 points. 3 non-collinear points will define the plane, will tell you exactly which plane it is. In fact, that's our postulate. Through any 3 non-collinear points, there's exactly one plane. And that is why we name the plane the way we do. You could use a cursive letter just to label it, but if you're going to use points to name a plane, they have to be non-collinear. Any 3 points that you ever run into will always be coplanar because any 3 points will lie in at least one plane. If the 3 points are collinear, there are infinite planes they could be in, but if the 3 points are non-collinear, there's one and only one plane. But no matter what, 3 points will always be coplanar. So now let's use these methods for practicing naming planes. You could name planes by just putting a label on it. Notice that plane P and plane Q, that P and Q are not points in the plane, they're just labels. So pause the video and practice naming this plane. You could name it plane V, RTS, WSR, any 3 points, as long as they're not in the same line. Why would naming it VRT be wrong? Because V is not a point, so you can't use it as one of the 3 points. Why would TWS be wrong? Because they're collinear, and you cannot name a plane with 3 collinear points. Why would naming it plane T be wrong? Because T is just one point. It represents a point. That's not a label, that's a point. And you can never use just 1 point to name a plane. You can never use just 2 points to name a plane. To name a plane, you need 3 points and they have to be non-collinear. So pause the video and name the purple plane. Here are a couple possible answers. Pause and name the green plane. Here are a couple possible answers. Any 3 non-collinear points will do. Pause and name plane R in a couple different ways. Here are a couple different answers. Now, DHI, this plane. Name that in a couple different ways. You could name it plane P or CHI. Those are two possible answers. And that does it for this video. So I will leave you with a very cute picture of a puppy and wish you a great day.